Sometimes we carry pain that other people cannot see. It may show up as sadness, anger, disappointment, or a heaviness in the heart that stays with us long after something painful has happened. When someone hurts us deeply, it can feel almost impossible to imagine ever letting that pain go. And yet, many people eventually discover that forgiveness can slowly bring a sense of peace and freedom back into their lives. In this video, we will gently explore what forgiveness really means, why it can feel so difficult, and how healing can slowly begin. Hi, and welcome to my channel, where we gently explore spirituality, inner growth, reflection, and reconnecting with ourselves. In the previous videos, we explored experiences such as the dark night of the soul and shadow work, where difficult emotions and past experiences can begin to surface as part of the healing process. Forgiveness is often an important part of that journey. As we begin looking more honestly at our past and the experiences that shaped us, we may realize that we are still carrying some of that emotional pain. Learning how to forgive can help us slowly release that weight and move forward with greater peace. Forgiveness is something we hear about often in healing and spirituality, but many people quietly struggle with it. When we have been deeply hurt, the idea of forgiving someone can feel almost impossible. We may wonder how we could ever let go of something that caused so much pain. Because of this, many people believe forgiveness means pretending nothing happened or saying that the hurt was acceptable. But that is not what forgiveness is. One of the most important things many of us eventually realize on this healing journey is that we cannot change other people. We cannot control what they do, what they say, or the choices they make. The only thing we truly have control over is ourselves, how we respond, how we grow, and how we choose to move forward. Another difficult part of healing is accepting that what happened has already taken place, and we cannot change the past. Acceptance does not mean we agree with what happened or that we think it was right. It simply means recognizing that the event is behind us. From that place, we can begin dealing with the pain and slowly move toward forgiveness. As we begin reflecting more deeply on our lives and becoming more aware of our emotions, we sometimes notice that old pain begins to surface again. This can feel confusing at first. We might think we already dealt with something years ago, but suddenly the feelings return. Sometimes it may be a conversation, a place, or even a small reminder that brings those emotions back again. Often this happens because when the event first occurred, we were simply trying to get through life and cope with what was happening. We may not have had the time, support, or understanding to process those feelings fully. When those emotions rise again later, it is often because they are asking to be understood and finally released. And this is often the moment when forgiveness becomes part of the healing journey. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting what happened. It also does not mean condoning someone's behavior or saying that it was acceptable. Forgiveness simply means slowly letting go of the emotional pain we are still carrying because of that past experience. Imagine carrying a heavy weight for a long time. At first, you may not notice it very much, but over time it becomes tiring. Forgiveness is a bit like gradually putting that heavy weight down. The memory may still exist, but the emotional weight becomes lighter and lighter. I noticed this in my own experience. For quite a long time, whenever I thought about a particular situation or spoke about the injustice of it with someone, I would often find myself becoming upset. Sometimes I would feel angry, and other times I would end up in tears. Over time, I also realized that holding on to that anger was creating a great deal of bitterness and resentment inside me. Many days it felt as though that bitterness was slowly eating away at me. The anger I was carrying was not affecting the other person at all, but it was affecting me, my happiness, my peace of mind, and even my health. Emotionally and mentally, it was exhausting, and over time I could feel how heavy it had become. But slowly something began to change. I began to realize that when the memory came to mind, I no longer reacted in the same way. I no longer found myself tearing up or feeling that same wave of pain. That was the moment I understood that forgiveness had quietly taken place. The memory was still there, but the emotional weight was no longer the same. Forgiveness can feel very difficult, especially when the hurt was deep. When someone hurts us, strong emotions can appear very naturally. We may feel sadness, anger, or even rage. These emotions are not wrong. In fact, they can sometimes act as a form of protection, helping us recognize that something painful or unfair has happened. But over time, holding on to those emotions can keep the pain alive inside us. What once helped us cope may eventually prevent us from healing. Forgiveness does not mean pretending those feelings never existed. It simply means that little by little we begin to release them, so they no longer control how we feel today. Many people think forgiveness should happen quickly, but this is rarely the case. In reality, forgiveness usually happens slowly and in stages. First, we become aware of the hurt. Then we begin to understand how that experience affected us. Over time, the emotions connected to that memory may start to soften. One day we might notice that thinking about the situation no longer brings the same level of pain as before. Forgiveness is often a gradual process, more like something slowly melting, rather than something that changes overnight. When we think about forgiveness, more often than not, we think about forgiving someone else. But sometimes we also need to forgive ourselves. We may feel regret about trusting someone who later hurt us. We might wish we had left a difficult situation sooner. Sometimes we blame ourselves for not noticing certain warning signs. But when we look back at our past with kindness, we often realize that we were simply doing the best we could with the knowledge and experience we had at that time. Treating our past selves with understanding can be a very important step in healing. Forgiveness also does not mean allowing someone to hurt us again. It does not mean we must stay close to people who have treated us badly or hurt us. Sometimes the healthiest step is to create boundaries. A boundary is simply a clear limit that protects our well-being, as well as our emotional and physical safety. We can forgive someone in our heart while still choosing distance in our lives. Forgiveness is about freeing ourselves from carrying the pain, while boundaries help protect our peace moving forward. If forgiveness feels very far away for you right now, that is completely okay. Healing does not need to be rushed. Sometimes the first step is simply being open to the possibility that one day we might be ready to let go of some of the pain. Even that small shift can begin to ease some of the tension we carry inside. But before forgiveness can happen, we often need to allow ourselves to feel the pain, rather than pushing it away. Sometimes that might mean having a good cry when the emotions come up. It might mean writing our thoughts and feelings in a journal, or talking about what happened with someone we trust. Some people find it helpful to write a letter to the person who hurt them, saying everything they wish they could say. That letter does not need to be sent. In fact, it is usually better if it isn't. The purpose is simply to release the feelings we have been holding inside. There are also different healing practices that can help us move through this process. Some people use affirmations, meditation, or visualization. In my own journey, I explored different practices too, including something called cord-cutting meditation. This is a practice where we imagine releasing the emotional tie we may still feel to a painful situation or relationship. Forgiveness often begins quietly, through small shifts in how we see ourselves, the situation, and our experiences. Forgiveness is rarely something that happens quickly. My own forgiveness journey took several years. There were many days when I cried, and many moments when the emotions felt overwhelming. At times, I tried different ways of coping and explored various healing practices. Slowly, over time, something began to change. The burden I had been carrying started to feel lighter. One day I realized that when I thought about the situation, the pain was no longer as strong as it once was. That was when I understood that forgiveness had quietly taken place. Forgiveness does not erase the past, but it can free us from carrying the pain of it for the rest of our lives. And when that weight finally lifts, even a little, it brings a sense of peace and a lightness that once may have felt impossible. If forgiveness still feels very far away for you right now, please be gentle with yourself. Healing takes time, and every step forward, no matter how small, matters. Until next time, love yourself deeply. If this resonated with you, please don't forget to like the video. You're also welcome to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. I love reading them, and if you enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing. It's completely free, and it helps support the channel. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. See you in the next one.